In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on.
But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them.
When JD Vance confronted Kier Starmer about UK citizens being arrested for tweets, the Prime Minister's face turned ashen. This wasn't the friendly White House meeting he'd envisioned. What followed was an international embarrassment as Elon Musk seized on the moment, publicly mocking the man who claims to champion free speech while his government imprisons people for social media posts. The disconnect between Starmer's words and his actions has never been more glaringly obvious. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. In what was meant to be a routine diplomatic meeting to strengthen UK-US relations, Kier Starmer walked into the White House with prepared talking points on trade deals and shared values. What he didn't anticipate was becoming the target of an unexpected free speech interrogation that would leave him visibly flustered and politically exposed. The meeting began cordially enough. Handshakes were exchanged, cameras flashed, and the usual diplomatic platitudes filled the air. But the atmosphere shifted dramatically when JD Vance, with Trump observing with barely concealed satisfaction, abruptly changed the subject to Britain's increasingly concerning approach to free speech. Prime Minister Starmer, Vance began, his tone measured but direct. How do you reconcile your government's claims about protecting free expression with the fact that British citizens are being arrested and questioned by police for posting opinions online?
Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
The question hung in the air as Starmer's expression flickered between surprise and discomfort. Starmer's response was telling. Rather than addressing the specific concern, he retreated to vague generalities, claiming he was very proud of Britain's long tradition of free speech, while simultaneously attempting to justify what he called necessary limitations. Trump's subtle nod of approval toward Vance only intensified Starmer's isolation in that moment. Vance wasn't finished. He methodically laid out specific cases that directly contradicted Starmer's polished rhetoric. Just last month, a woman in Hampshire was arrested for simply reposting a meme that someone found offensive. Another man was questioned by police for liking a tweet that criticised immigration policy. These aren't terrorists or people inciting violence. These are ordinary citizens expressing political opinions. The Prime Minister shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his diplomatic training clearly unprepared for this level of direct confrontation. His hands betrayed his nervousness, fingers tightening around his pen as Vance continued to list examples of what many Americans would consider shocking government overreach. And what about the army veteran questioned by police for posting a pride flag edited to form a swastika? He wasn't arrested for any action. He was investigated for posting an image that expressed his opinion, however controversial. Is this the free speech tradition you're proud of, Prime Minister? Trump, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally interjected with a pointed observation. Sounds like thought police to me. Very sad. America would never allow that kind of thing. The comment landed like a grenade in the middle of what was supposed to be a friendly diplomatic exchange. If Starmer thought his humiliation would remain confined to the White House walls, he was about to receive a rude awakening.
In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on.
Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right.
While he was fumbling through his defence of Britain's questionable free speech record, the world's richest man was preparing to amplify this diplomatic embarrassment to an audience of over 150 million followers. What happens when the owner of the very platforms where UK citizens are being arrested for their posts decides to expose this hypocrisy? Elon Musk wasted no time in launching a digital broadside against the UK Prime Minister. In a series of scathing posts, he brutally highlighted the gap between Starmer's diplomatic posturing and the reality faced by ordinary Britons. While Kier Starmer was boasting about free speech, his government was imprisoning regular people for tweets, Musk declared, his message spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. What made Musk's intervention particularly devastating was his position as both a tech leader and free speech advocate. Unlike politicians bound by diplomatic niceties, Musk had the freedom to call out what he saw as governmental overreach without mincing words. His blunt assessment that the UK was punishing citizens for expressing opinions online transformed what might have been a forgettable diplomatic hiccup into an international scandal. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Media outlets worldwide picked up the story, questioning whether Britain had indeed strayed too far in policing digital speech.
And I'll be going there, and we expect to see each other in the near future. We'll be announcing it.
But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them.
Political commentators began examining the growing list of cases where ordinary citizens faced legal consequences for social media posts. What was meant to be a routine diplomatic meeting had morphed into a global referendum on Britain's commitment to free expression. Back home, Starmer found himself caught in an impossible position. Directly challenging Musk would only draw more attention to the very cases he hoped to downplay. Yet his silence appeared as tacit admission. Critics accused him of failing to defend Britain's free speech record and exposing the government's hypocrisy. Each passing hour brought new revelations as ordinary Britons began sharing their own experiences with speech restrictions, further undermining Starmer's claims. The Prime Minister's carefully constructed image as a defender of British values was crumbling under the weight of evidence Musk had helped bring to light. His team scrambled to contain the damage, but their efforts only highlighted the gap between political rhetoric and everyday reality. For many observers, the incident revealed a troubling pattern, a government quick to proclaim its commitment to freedom, while simultaneously expanding its power to police what citizens could say online. The fallout from this White House debacle strikes at something far deeper than mere diplomatic embarrassment. What we've witnessed is the collapse of Starmer's carefully constructed facade around free expression in Britain. The troubling reality remains, while government officials champion free speech in international forums, British citizens face real consequences for their online opinions. Recent polling confirms what many have long suspected. The British public increasingly recognises the yawning gap between political promises about free speech and the harsh reality of online censorship. This isn't just another news cycle that will fade away. It represents a fundamental question about British values and governance that won't disappear with the next headline. Starmer now faces a credibility crisis that extends beyond this singular humiliation. As more citizens share their experiences with speech restrictions, the government's position becomes increasingly untenable. The uncomfortable truth is that British leadership can no longer have it both ways, either support genuine free expression or admit to maintaining a system of speech control that belongs in another era entirely. And voters, it seems, are finally taking notice.